Welcome to another Cup of Joe. I'm your host, Joe Tumalo, CEO of Plan Giving Partner, with my guest, Patrick O'Donnell, has his coffee mug there.
I do. Good morning.
Welcome, Patrick. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know that I've had a marketing writing expert on yet. So thank you for allowing us to do some diversity here. So Patrick is an author, an editor, a ghostwriter. Ooh, that's spooky. Consultant, and your big project is this awesome magazine, Giving Tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that can be, people can get this, what, from plangiving.com?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You can subscribe to it on plangiving.com. And we're actually going to be changing it up a little bit. We've got some exciting changes coming to the content, so we'll be rolling that out shortly. Can't say too much about it quite yet, but I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a big improvement.
Awesome. And what I like, one of the things I like, now I'm a little biased because my article's in this issue, but a little biased. My article aside, we were talking earlier, I like the smart brevity that I don't have to, it's not like, oh God, this is going to take me 3 hours to read this thing. It's to the point, incredibly well done, succinct, and very practical. And I just always, they're all great. I just really always was attracted to your stuff. And so thanks for joining us and sharing some of your vast knowledge.
Well, that's great to hear. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
My
One of
pleasure.
the things we try to do with the magazine and we try to do with our content on plangiving.com is keep it short. You mentioned smart brevity, and people's attention spans today, as you pointed out, are so short that when we write something, we think we're putting the greatest stuff out there, right? We're getting all our ideas on paper and they're all important. But the reality is the person who's reading it just thinks you're droning on and on and on. And they're not even going to turn the page. They're going to get a few paragraphs in. They're not going to get what they want out of what they're reading, and they're going to move on. And that's the reality of the world we live in now. So smart brevity is important. Short sentences, you want to keep it succinct. You want to skip jargon, and you don't want to ramble on. People just don't have the attention spans for it. We've gone from when I started writing for the internet, blog posts were 2,000 words, 1,500 words. They were huge.
Wow.
Over the years, we've gone down and down and down and down. And now it's recommended that, well, about 300 words, 300 to 500 words. Sometimes for longer ones, you can get up to 2,000, but most people won't even sit through a 300-word blog.
And what do you think of, a little related topic, the whole recent, now this is maybe dated and outdated, but I always remember appeal letters the longer they are, the higher response rate they get, like 2-page, 3-page letters. Now that may be, again, that may be outdated.
I think it depends on your nonprofit, your cause, your mission, and the letter itself, right? If you have 3 pages, again, that are just droning on and on and on, no one's going to be interested in it. But if you can craft a well-written 3-page letter, you are going to engage some people. Again, you need to segment by audience, and you need to, I think, in a way, write to your audience as well. Okay. Depends on your nonprofit's style, your nonprofit's brand. Are you trying to be an expert? Are you trying to educate? Are you trying to be formal? Are you trying to be more scientific? Or are you trying to be informal? Those things play into it as well. It depends on your audience. In general, though, I like to do shorter letters. I find that shorter letters do better. People tend to read them. They don't just end up in the circular file.
Shorter letter better.
That's what I believe.
Yeah. And so the article that inspired me to finally reach out to you and see if you want to do one of these was around effective do's and don'ts for effective nonprofit storytelling. Really, really got a lot out of that and share that with clients.
Well, thank you. That's great.
I'll send you your commission check.
Right.
So there are a couple points, strong points that you made out of it. One, which I was really fascinated by, is focusing on the individual as opposed to what? the,
So, when you see some appeals, you'll see, and I'm just throwing this out, I'm not singling any particular nonprofit out, but you'll see an appeal that, you know, hundreds of children starving, or you'll see an appeal looking to help all the shelter dogs, right? That doesn't reach people. There is something called, it's called the singularity effect. It's also called compassion fade. And they've done a bunch of studies on this. Essentially, it boils down to, we as individuals, we're hardwired for individual connections, for one-on-one. That's about the extent of our compassion. I mean, I'm not talking about family, but outside of family, our compassion starts to fade after we get to two people. So when you are writing an appeal, you need to focus on one person, one animal, one event. Keep it simple, keep it singular, and people can relate. I can relate to a story about a dog in a shelter, the story of its abuse, the help it needs. But when you talk about a shelter that's full of dogs, my brain doesn't know where to go. Like, which one do I help? Can I help all of them? Probably not. But if you break it down and make it simple, just like a task, if you break a task down into pieces, I kind of look at it that way. If you break your appeal down into individuals, you'll get a much better response. There was actually a Cambridge study some years ago about this thing called the singularity effect. And like I said, what they found is the more people you add into something, the less compassion you're going to get from your audience. You focus on one child who needs to learn to read and tell that child's story, people can relate to it. But you tell a story about a whole classroom of children who need to read and people can't relate. The compassion goes out the window. You're not going to get your donation. But when you can make it relatable to one person and get some feeling in it, then you'll get a response, more likely. I'm not saying you won't get a response to, an appeal that's a more general appeal, but when you really focus it on an individual, we find that you get a much better response, and science backs that up.
excellent. And simple, again, simple and very easy to apply.
It is.
You sparked a thought that I have when I watching TV and see one of the animal rescues showing the poor dogs shaking in a cage. It's really difficult to watch, and I keep thinking, why don't they show me? Now, obviously, they're successful because they have to be spending, I would think, millions of dollars on these ads. They're on all the time. But why don't you show me the dog being rescued and in the arms of a cute young kid,
Right.
snuggling with the dog, as opposed to what are your thoughts around the
Well,
approach in that?
I guess it depends on the approach that they're most successful with. Sometimes that's kind of like a fear-based, or that's probably not the right term. Rather than marketing based on the outcome, you're trying to make people uncomfortable and say, look, this is a big problem. These dogs need help, rather than this dog has been helped and it's happy and it's loved. That might not feel as urgent to some people. Now, to me, I would like to see both sides, right? Show me the dog shaking in the cage, then show me what the donation has, what the adoption has done, what the donation has done, what the gift has done to help that dog. Show me the dog now that it's happy and calm and it has a forever home. You show me that difference, you can show me how my gift is going to make a difference.
And then I'm just thinking, for like, I do a lot in healthcare, and there's a lot of hospitals and healthcare related. So it could be a patient struggling,
Right.
and then doing better, whether it's in remission from cancer or had eye surgery or something, and so struggling, and then here's the outcome, the impact of your gifts.
Right. And I think that's important in storytelling as well. When we're doing a donor story, don't just tell me why you need my help. Tell me what my help can accomplish. Show me what my help can accomplish. Show me what someone else's help has accomplished. And then I can make that connection and go, oh, So if I pledge X amount of dollars, I can save a dog, I can help a child, I can, whatever that mission might be. It's cause and effect.
Right. The second point that you had come up with, you mentioned it earlier, is eliminate jargon.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
Can you give me some like real world practical examples of things people say?
So in the planned giving world, for instance, plannedgiving.com, we see a lot of folks writing appeals or putting content on their website that's filled with terms like cruts and crats. They talk about CGAs. The average person, the average donor, isn't going to know what that is when they go to your website. They're not going to be interested in a charitable remainder unit trust, right? They want to know first, how can I help? And secondly, is that going to benefit me at all? They don't need to get into the technical details until after they've pledged the gift, after they've said, you know what, I'm willing to help. Show me exactly how I can do that now. Then you can get into the details, or the financial advisor can get into the details. But
Right.
as far as the nonprofit digging down and getting into the nitty gritty and throwing out jargon, it's not going to connect. You're looking to talk to the average person. You're not trying to get someone else in your nonprofit to make a gift. You're trying to get your audience in the general public to make a gift. And we tend a lot, those of us who sit behind a computer, we'll use jargon. We'll talk to each other and we'll use terms that have no bearing to the common person. So you can't put that stuff in your appeals. And it's not just nonprofits, businesses tend to do it too. So keep it simple, eliminate jargon. For instance, don't say bequest, say make a gift from your will. That's understandable. Bequest, not everyone's going to know what that word means.
Are you a Russell James follower?
A little bit, yes, definitely.
Amazing. Talk about the content, just the volume of content.
Yes.
It's incredible. Yeah, he talks about that a lot.
He does. He makes
Now,
it.
how about outside of planned giving? Could somebody in whatever annual, major, outright gifts, I'm trying to think of what jargon somebody could use. Maybe it has to do with their mission or the work they do.
Right. It might have to do with your particular mission, right? If you're, again, going back to this example of animal rescue, maybe you're a vet and you're throwing jargon from your practice into your appeal, right? That people aren't going to understand. Or a doctor or a hospital, you're throwing medical terms in there that people aren't necessarily going to understand. You need to keep it simple. You need to keep it basic. I worked for many years in newspapers. I was an editor before I moved into marketing. I was a copy editor. And when you're writing for the general public for a newspaper, you're looking for content around an 8th grade reading level, because you want a very broad appeal. And I think the same can hold true when you're writing an appeal, when you're writing for a nonprofit. You want very broad appeal. You want to keep it simple.
Thank you. And then the third point we talked about is including details that kindle emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So
again, a lot of times you will see an appeal that gives you just the facts, right? It tells you why they want your gift and what your gift can do. They might tell you, the appeal might focus on a person's illness a little bit, or the dog, but really what you want to get down to is, how did it make them feel? You want emotions that you can relate to. So you want to ask about things. For instance, I recently interviewed a couple who has a long history of making gifts to a certain hospital. And they were kind of taken aback because I was asking questions, not so much about the gifts, but when did you get married? How did you meet? What do you like to do for fun as a couple? And a couple times the gentleman said, why are you asking that question? But once I wrote the story and put it all together, they saw it, and the gentleman from the nonprofit came back and said, I think you really captured their story, and I like the details because, now we can talk about, oh, look, or now we can relate to, oh, wow, they got married in the 1970s, they met here, that reminds me of you and I, it's something relatable. You keep the details, you keep the other details, and you keep the facts in, but you get something emotional in there. It could be as simple as silly as, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? And you don't fill your story with those details. You use them to decorate. Like, think about decorating a room, right? You want things to stand out. You want focal points. You want that in your story as well.
That's
They
great.
might have substance, but they add emotion.
Nice. My wife's about to retire, and I'm going to move up into her office. So we were painting and redecorating the last couple weekends, and so the basics, right? I need a desk that allows me to stand. I need this a shelf for the books. I need filing cabinets for the folders, right? So that's like the details, right?
Right.
And then the emotions. What color? I like an olive color.
Right, exactly.
Wall, and I was online looking for some affordable paintings that, since we're in the office so many hours a day, that would be joyful, right? So that's the emotional, right?
Yeah, if your story is a house, your facts are the frame and the walls and the roof foundation. Your details are the paint, the artwork, the decorative touches.
Nice.
It's solid, but it has something to make it appealing as well. And that's what you want in your story. And that's what those details are. Do you have a dog? What's your dog's name? How did you adopt the dog? Just something small where people can go, oh yeah, I'm a dog lover too, or I'm a cat lover, or whatever. Just, you want things people can connect to beyond just the facts.
How many dogs do you have?
I technically have one, but I often have two because my girlfriend's dog comes to stay. She lives in Philly. She has the city apartment, and I have the country house, as we call it. She comes to the country house because I have almost 4 acres. The dogs love to roam.
Oh, wow.
We joke that I have like 50% custody of her dog. So she's here. The dog is here right now. I call them my office managers. They're both sleeping off to my left.
Cute. Can you show us real quick for us dog lovers?
Oh,
Or can you move the camera, or I don't want to?
there's one.
Oh, cute. Wow.
Oh, there's the other one.
Yeah. Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
Got a beagle and a German Shepherd pit bull mix.
I didn't know you had it.
When
talk about animals a lot. I figured you had to have dogs. It's great.
Oh yeah. And it was funny, I know this is off topic, but when I got my dog, he was traumatized. He'd been abused, he'd been injured, he still has a lot of injuries that require care. And so he was very reactive to other dogs. And my girlfriend didn't have it. She'd had a dog who died, and she was, considering getting another one. She said, well, how am I going to get a dog if your dog is so reactive? And now they're best friends. We got this tiny little beagle who is the sweetest thing in the world and not reactive to anything. And she snuggles up with the big dog, and they do everything together. It's funny. It's really cute.
I have had some experiences in my life in business where I had like really bad first experiences with somebody, and they wound up being long time customers or donors in the long run. I remember before I got a nonprofit, a straight commission sales guy, and going door to door and going into a doctor's office, and the office manager just being really nasty. And like you're a professional, that's what you say to me, just really being nasty. She wound up in the long run being a longtime customer, referring me to all her friends. It's incredible. And I've had that with donors that, I do most of my work now is calling donors for clients or potential donors. And, I'm calling people that nobody's called in a long time, or if ever. And sometimes they think I'm a telemarketer, so they can be nasty, but I've had some of those turn into like really solid relationships leading to meaningful gifts.
Interesting.
coincidence or what, but
Yeah.
yeah, maybe first impressions aren't
Bark
all.
is worse than the bite.
Yes, there you go. Well said. Anything else you want to share with folks at this point?
Well, let's see. What we talked about emotion, focusing on individuals, eliminating jargon. Let's see. What else did I want to? Oh, don't lose track of your why when you are writing. All right. Your nonprofit has a why. It has a mission. Your appeal needs to reflect that. You need to stick with that. And if you can define your nonprofit's why, you can define your appeals why. And once you stay focused on that, your appeals and your mission will line up. Too many people try, they have the mission here, but then the appeals don't always reflect your mission just because of the writing.
We should have started with why.
Yeah.
A la Simon Sinek, right?
Yes, exactly. Right. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
I used to share that video. There's a 5-minute version of Simon Sinek's TED Talk.
Yes.
Just focus on that, start with why. And I used to share that before every training session with clients. Start with why. Why would I care?
Why before every appeal, before everything you write. Why are you writing it? What is this content going to do? Where does it appeal? Where does it appear on my website? If that's what you're doing, what is my appeal for? Start with a why, work down from there.
Right. One more thing I want to bring up, AI.
Uh-huh.
Right? Like,
yeah, I am very opposed to AI. I don't
really, that's shocking. Really.
That's
shocking.
A lot of people will say, well, it's because you're a writer and you don't want to take a job. And that is true. Of course, that's true. But there's another element to it. And I think that's people think that they have a quick fix, right? Well, I'm having trouble writing the content. I'm just going to let AI do it. They come up with something that looks okay to them and they throw it up on their website. But when you get down into it, you start reading into it, it's clunky. It has errors. It doesn't have the emotional appeal that something a human would write. And it doesn't make the same types of connections. I find AI writing is getting better, largely because people are training it. But I still find it to sound very wooden, very mechanical, if you will. Not all of it. Like I said, some of it's improving, but I still find it very mechanical.
That's an important point. I will admit, I use an AI mostly for my blogs. So my web guys, like, you need to be putting fresh content on your website on a regular basis to help with the search engine optimization. And I'm like, you know what? I really don't think, I can't imagine somebody's reading my blogs. I never check the stats, but it's like, you know what? I can't imagine. I have so much videos, so much on my website. I can't imagine they're looking at that. So I purchased one of the AI subscriptions. It's great, but to your point, there's no emotion in there. It's pretty mechanical. But for search engine optimization, right? And once in a while, I'll have a client say, "Can you take a look at this appeal letter or whatever?" And I will use it, but yeah, I have to soften it up.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it can't be useful, because then you might be having trouble with something and you run it through AI and see a different way to do it. I mean, for me, that was, that goes back to when I worked at the paper or something. You had trouble, you just turned to your neighbor and said, "Hey, how would you phrase this?" But we can't all do that.
Yeah. Patrick O'Donnell, thank you. Good stuff. How can people get in touch with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. Just search me up, Patrick O'Donnell. And I have a website, patrickfodonnell.com.
Can you say that again, Patrick?
patrickfodonnell.com.
patrickfodonnell.com. No comma in there, just patrickfodonnell.com. And what could you do what's your why? Why would somebody call you to?
Well, I help nonprofits sound more human. I put emotion into appeals. I help with content. I can make I can fix content. I can make it more appealing. I can make it more attractive, and I can make it match your brand. Some people have content that doesn't match their brand. They're not sure how to do it. So I can help people find their why and find a way forward in their content.
Beautiful. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Joe.
And thank you to our sponsor, ThankView, as always. If you're not familiar with them, great company. They help you produce videos, can be short, emotion-filled videos to send out to your donors and prospects. Check out thankview.com. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Take care.